Hi again, everybody. My name is Greg Anderson, and this is the Good Timekeeping Show with Greg Anderson. And today I want to talk about this watch here. I've actually shown this in some previous videos, just a quick glance, because I've had this watch for several months already. And believe it or not, I stalled on making a video about this watch because I thought I needed more time to kind of figure it out. Now, you would think, what is there to figure out? It's pretty simple. It's a straightforward 3 analog hands and the date window there. What's the big deal? Well, let me explain. This is an Oceanus OCW-T200 watch. It has a stainless steel case and a bracelet. It has RC there for radio control, so it's multiband 6. It will automatically set itself to the correct time, just using multiband 6 reception. But it also has a Bluetooth connection, so if you live in an area where multiband 6 just doesn't quite work right for you, you can use Bluetooth and have this watch set itself to the exact correct time by using a connection to your telephone, or your smartphone, as it were. So yeah, a lot of potential here. And the thing that confused me the most is that difference between sometimes maybe it would sync to the right time using multiband 6 and other times maybe with Bluetooth. It took me a while to kind of figure out what is the watch trying to do. In the meantime, it does set itself correctly, and it is correct. Oh, another thing I should mention here, this has tough solar. So I know it doesn't say that on the front here. So it has a solar cell built into the face of the watch, and it will charge its own power source with with solar power. So the thing is, with the ability to set itself to the right time and the ability to charge its own battery using exposure to just normal everyday lighting, it's a pretty much trouble-free watch, and it looks gorgeous. Now, a few months ago, I also did a review of this watch here on the left. This is the OCW-S100, and so very similar as far as the functions. This one here does not have the Bluetooth connection, but it does have multiband 6, and so there are various versions of both this watch here on the left and this watch on the right. This one stood out to me because it's a little bit different. I couldn't find a great deal on the price on this with this particular color. There were some other color combinations for this that were more affordable and easier to find, but I opted to go with this one. I bought this previously used, and I've got a whole video about how I got this, and I got very fortunate in that it was in great condition when I got it. So I'm happy that I got this and paid a little bit of a premium for it because it's a little bit rare. But so anyway, there's another video on this one. I'll link to it. This one has the titanium case and the titanium wrist bracelet there. Whereas, and that kind of confused me with the this being the S100. I thought S for stainless steel. Well, I was wrong. S in this case is the titanium one, and this one with the T over here on the right is the stainless steel one. But that's okay. They're both gorgeous. The rumor is, and I haven't independently verified this, but I've seen it enough. I guess it's true. There's a special finish on here. And they tell me that this is accomplished in the same place where they do the special finish on the Grand Seiko watches. So in a sense, this is kind of like if Casio made a Grand Seiko kind of watch, maybe that's what these Oceanus watches represent. These are some of the more basic Oceanus watches, and they're a little bit pricey for what I normally get. For me, something like this one here, that's kind of my speed. And, you might get up to $100 or $200 for something like this, especially if you add the bracelet, as I did here. But when you start getting closer to $400, that's when I have to kind of pause and think about my budget a little bit, because I'm just not into the really expensive watches. But these are gorgeous watches, kind of entry-level Oceanus watches. Some of the more expensive ones, they get into several sub-dials and all kinds of fancy things like that. And so you can get quite pricey in the Oceanus range. But anyway, that's just some background. Today, I really want to talk about this guy here. I know you probably want to see some real tight close-ups here to get a view of all this craftsmanship there. You kind of got that Oceanus logo there on the crown, the way all these elements inside the face are kind of raised there. Great look, a very flat crystal there. This is a sapphire crystal, so it should be relatively tough. Anyway, a lot of great details there. Oh, let me show you the back of it. Here, as normal with these Casio watches, you kind of get a whole bunch of information printed on the back of that. So there you can see it's Sapphire Crystal, water resistant to 10 bar. There you've got the module 5596, the model number, made in Japan, all that stuff there. And there it does tell you it's a tough movement, tough solar, Bluetooth, multiband 6, all that stuff on there. The bracelet itself, this is it's that pin and collar system that some people really don't like that because it's kind of a little more challenging to get those pins out if you want to add or remove links here. And then here on the clasp, there's only one micro adjustment on this link, here on the clasp. So, as far as fine tuning the fit on this, the thing that they've done here is you've got kind of these full-size links like this, and then on each side there's kind of a half link there. So it may take some doing to get the exact fit that you want. You can add or remove a half link from either side of it, and then you've got just a little bit of a micro adjustment there on the clasp. And if you're the kind of person that, I know this happens to me sometimes in the summertime or whatever, if I get hot, maybe it feels like my wrist gets a little bit larger, or if I get cold, my wrist seems to get just a little bit smaller. So maybe the fit of this, could change a little bit depending on your wrist is changing a little bit. And so I know there are some folks who wish there were an easy way to do the micro adjustments there, especially if your wrist seems to be changing sizes. But I think I've settled on what I feel is a good fit for this, and I'm not that concerned about it. As you can see, he's got that little nub there on the clasp. You clamp it down that way, and then you just press these on the side there to release that. So it's pretty standard as far as watch bracelets go with the Casio line. And again, the pin and collar thing, just be very careful. And I have another video, of course, where I've shown how to deal with the pin and collar system. Make sure you don't lose any tiny pieces when you're trying to put stuff back together. But I was able to size this pretty well with some just common and inexpensive sizing tools for the bracelet. And I'm pretty happy with the way this fits. All right, so as we see, it uses multiband 6. So there's a simple way to set the watch and use it even if you're not going to utilize the Bluetooth feature. Okay, so the crown has 2 positions. You can pull it out 1 click or 2 clicks. If I pull this out 1 click like that, there you can see the second hand has stopped at the 53-second mark. And the way you're supposed to interpret this is that's not 53 seconds. What that is telling you is you are 7 hours behind UTC. So if I were to turn the crown just one little notch there, let's just move that ahead to where it's just 6 hours behind UTC, then you can see how everything adjusted accordingly. This is how you choose the time zone where you're going to be using this watch. So if you were going to be at UTC, it would be straight up right there, the 12 o'clock position. And if you want to go ahead of UTC, you just go ahead there, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours ahead. That's how you set the time. So I'm going to set this back to 7 hours behind UTC. And for me, that is the Mountain Time Zone of the United States, or the Denver time zone. That's where I am. So the watch will, adjust itself accordingly, and it's going to end up at the exact correct time for this location. Now, if I wanted to manually set the time, let's say it's not going to use its automatic reception to set itself. So what I would do for that is I would pull the crown out to the second position right there. And now it's going to allow me to manually set the time. Now the second hand has parked itself over here just to the right of the 12 o'clock position. So what this is telling me is that the time right now is about 5:50, almost 5:50 p.m. With that being in that position, that means p.m. If I were to just use the crown here to go ahead 1 minute at a time, I could go ahead or I could go backwards there. And if I do it quickly and kind of get it going on automatic, then it's going to keep turning around fast without me having to manipulate the crown. And I can just let that go until it gets close to the right time, and then I can stop it where I think it will be the right time. So in this case, we're in the PM hours here. And at a certain point when this hour hand passes the 12 o'clock position, then that second hand is going to flip back this way to indicate AM. So AM or PM indicated by the second hand when I'm in this setting mode here. And let me just speed up the recording and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, let me just slow this down. Okay, so now as I just inch forward, 1 minute at a time, here I go to midnight and see how the second hand flipped back to show you now we're in AM hours. I can go back the other way and it's going to quickly indicate, oh, wait, now you're in PM hours. So that's how I do that, setting the time. And then if I push in the crown, then it will start at 1 second, and it'll just keep going that way. So that is how you manually set the time. And then, your manual setting will be overridden by either the Multiband 6 reception or the Bluetooth connection to set it to, the real correct time. But if you're in an area where, again, you don't want to use Bluetooth and Multiband 6 isn't working for you, that is how you manually set that. Now, what about the other settings? Specifically, how do you affect this date window here? So right now, okay, it's just running normally. I've got it set to, that time, just barely after midnight. Pull the crown out again. This is 2 clicks out. And now if I push this button here, there's a 1 button there, then it's going to go ahead. And what this is trying to indicate is the date. So we know it's going to be somewhere in the 2000s. The year is 20 whatever. So what is this is pointing to the 2. So that means it's 2020 something. If I push the button again, 3. So what it has just told me is that the year is 2023. Now I can adjust that right here and make it 2024, 2026, 2028. I can make that adjustment there. And then things are going to line up accordingly. And then if I push this again, now it's telling me that the month, means the month is the 3rd month. That means March. So I could move this to, some other month. I could move it back and say, no, let's pretend it's February. Okay, now if I push it one more time, this, and the second hand is parked up at the 12, this is where I can now turn it to affect the date in the window there. Now, why is it important to have it know the year and the month? What it will do, based on the year, it's going to know whether or not it's leap year. So as this is advancing, it's going to automatically go from, say, February 28th to March 1st, except in leap years, it's going to automatically go from February 28th to February 29th the next day, and then to March 1st. So that's why programming the date, the year, and the month is important there. And again, there are just 5 times each year where the month is not a full 31 days long, and this will automatically advance from 30 to 1, or from 28 or 29 to 1 at the end of those months when there's not a full 31 days. So, but normally you wouldn't even have to set this because it would all happen automatically with Multiband 6 or with the Bluetooth connection. So anyway, I can push this crown in now and everything's running normally now because, I'm not worried about it being off. It's not set to the right time or date or even year right now. I'm not worried about that because in a moment I'm going to show you the Bluetooth connection. It's going to correct all this stuff that I just did. A couple other things you can do with the crown. When I start here with the normal timekeeping and the crown is pushed in all the way, if I pull that out once here, and again, this is where it's going to allow me to set the time zone. But if I now push this button, see how it's gone down here. And if you look really close down there on the dial, it was briefly pointing to AT. Now the AT in this case is referring to daylight saving time. AT means it will automatically change from standard time to daylight saving time. If it had pointed to STD, that would mean standard time all the time, and DST would mean daylight saving time all the time in the display. So for me, automatic works because we do change from standard time to daylight saving time here where I live. If I wanted to change that to only show one or the other, then what I would do is I'd kind of press and hold this for a moment and then see how it just went to, now it's going to show me standard time only. Or if I press and hold that again, Now it's going to be daylight saving time only. And see, it's adjusting itself, say, oh, okay, fine, I'm on daylight saving time. Or if I, again, push and hold that again and go back to automatic, that's how I tell the watch whether or not I want it to be, automatic or standard time all the time or daylight saving time all the time. All right, you can do that with the crown. Now, when the crown is pushed in all the way and I tap this button here, it's going to point to either yes or no, N or Y right there. Now, the reason it pointed to N for no is that it was not able to set itself since the last time I was fiddling with it and made all those changes to the time setting. So that's why I said no. But if it had been successful and I hadn't been changing all those settings, then it would have pointed to Y. Now, here's the part where I haven't been able to quite figure out how to make this watch work the way that it says it will in the manual. And this is, how do I make it receive from Multiband 6 manually instead of waiting for that to happen automatically overnight? Normally, what I would do is I would press and hold this button here and watch this thing, the second hand flip around, and then this would have ended up on RC for radio control, and then it would attempt to receive. But I haven't been able to let it do that. Instead, what it's doing right now is it has somehow picked up the Bluetooth connection, because I have the Bluetooth device by my phone. And so I don't know exactly. I've tried to unpair this from my phone and then make it do the Multiband 6 reception manually, and somehow it just doesn't seem to work out. But in any case, right now, I've just inadvertently synchronized it to my phone through Bluetooth when I was attempting to make radio control work. So there's something in here I don't fully understand. And if you're going to compare this to something like this G-Shock watch here, the thing about these G-Shocks that I'm used to is they will give you a ton of information. So it's very easy to just press a button here, and this one will say, oh yeah, by the way, the last time I was able to get my atomic time information from Multiband 6 was today at 12:04 a.m. Is that what you want to know? Okay, I'm going to tell you. Whereas this watch here doesn't necessarily tell you all of that. Okay, this watch here has countdown timer and 5 alarms and an hourly signal and a backlight. This doesn't have any of that stuff. So there's no debate about whether an electroluminescent backlight is better than LED with this guy, because there's no backlight anyway on this guy. And as I've been talking, see, this is also, it's already fixed the local time here. The second hand is not moved because it's still telling me that it's connected. But as I've been talking, this is going to correct itself back to the current date. And so that all happens pretty quickly, pretty seamlessly. And the thing is, if you're just going to use this like most people and not try to treat it like it's a G-Shock with tons of information coming at you all the time and all these different functions that you expect from a G-Shock, if you just appreciate this for what it is, a simple 3-hand analog watch that looks gorgeous and has a date window, and that's all you're going to get out of this, then keep it simple, and that's what you're going to get from this watch. Okay, so that's what I've decided to accept about this watch. All right, I should briefly show you how the Bluetooth app works. Now, unfortunately, and some people are really upset about this, the app that is supposed to work with this watch has changed. When I first got it, you would use the Oceanus connected app, but now they want you to use Casio Watches app. And I'm going to have to do a follow-up video because I'm not really familiar with the new Casio Watches app. And some people really don't like the new app, but this will still work with the old app on this particular phone. So I'm going to go ahead and start the Oceanus app and show you what this used to be like. Okay, so it's not connected right now. See right there, it's not really showing that it's connected, even though it is synchronized, the two screens here. But if I were to, again, hold this button on the watch for about 2.5 seconds is what they say, then I've already made the connection here. I've already paired these two. So it was a very quick connection to get this one going. And the app doesn't do a ton of stuff. Again, this is not a G-Shock app, right? But it gives you some status stuff here. First of all, it's showing you the correct time and what the watch should be showing at the same time. The only difference is right now the second hand is working on the app. The second hand is not working on the watch right now because the second hand is pointed to the C, indicating that, hey, I'm connected right now. But what I can do, let's see, if I just tap here on self-adjust, then it's going to show me it gives me a history of self-adjustment. So it's telling me that the number of times that it has been able to set itself and connect and make that synchronization. Okay, so if I go up here at one of these other boxes up top here, self-charge, this is kind of nice. This will show you, this is where you find out the battery level on the watch, and it's fully charged right now. It also gives you a little bit of an indication of how it's been charging over the last little while and the times of day that it charges and stuff like that. So again, this is stuff that normally we G-Shock guys, we love to look at our G-Shocks, and it tells me the state of the battery and tells me all this information. This gives you a little bit of fun information about the battery charging, but it's stuff you don't really need to know, but for those of us who want to know. And then where it says self-update, what I'm seeing here, I'm trying to figure out what this tab is all about, but what it looks like is that it's giving you information about when time zone and specifically daylight saving time information, those schedules change in different time zones. This kind of gives you a list of the times when any of that information has been updated so that the watch can conform itself to things like daylight saving time changes. So that's really about all there is to the app. If I do go in here to the settings on the app, then I've already paired the watch and given it a distinct name here. If I click on that, it allows me to do a few things. There is a phone finder here so that if you push a button on the watch, it can make sounds on your phone if you're looking for your phone. It's got some other settings similar to what I've had on other Casio apps. Right here, you can set it to time out after 3, 5, or 10 minutes. If you don't do anything with the app connection, then it'll save battery power by disconnecting the watch from the app after a certain amount of time. Here's something about the time adjustment, and it gives you a nice history here showing you the last times it was able to adjust itself. Now, if you have the app set to allow the app to know your location all the time, even when the app is not running, that apparently is the setting that allows this to automatically connect to the app, even if the app is not in the foreground on your smart device. And so when it's automatically trying to check itself is every 6 hours. So at 12:30 or at 6:30, both AM and PM, that's when it's trying to connect to the app. Even if you're not purposely doing that connection, it will automatically make that connection if your app setting allows it to have the location enabled all the time. Here it's telling you I'm going to click on here. It's telling you your time zone and whether or not daylight saving time is selected for the time zone there. And there's a premium production line certificate to show you that this watch was well made at the factory there in Japan. This one here, though, this is kind of fun. Adjust home positions on the hands. So normally this is going to self-correct for the hand alignment, but if you think something's off and you want to double check that, I can just tap, like if I tap on the number 1 here and say, yes, I'd like to adjust the home positions there. Then I give it a moment, and what it's going to do is it's going to take its own time here, and it's going to race around and point all the hands straight up at the 12 position. And when that happens, I can confirm whether or not it is set correctly and whether or not the hands are aligned. And so for some of us, we want to make sure that that's really dead on accurate. And this is where you can manually, have it show you what it thinks is the correct position for the hands. And as long as that home position in this setting here is everything correctly pointed all the way up to the 12, if it is, then you can pretty well assume that it's going to be in the right position as it goes around the dial doing normal timekeeping. You can also, if I push here the number 4 here, this will allow me to adjust, kind of fine tune the position of the date in that window there. I'm not going to bother with that. So those are some of the things you can do with the app. Generally, I'm not really going to use the app very much on here. And when I was using the app for a little while and decided, well, maybe I'll just let this run regular with the Multiband 6 instead of using the app, what I did is I went into the app and I unpaired the phone and the watch in the app. And when I did that, then I'm assuming that it just kept keeping itself synchronized with Multiband 6. Again, this watch is not going to give up a lot of information like your G-Shock will. All I knew was the watch was running correctly, and it was set to the right time, and so I was happy with that. As far as anything else here, well, if the battery gets down to a low level, then instead of going perfect tick once every second, it's going to be like a double step every 2 seconds. So if you see that behavior on the watch, that is telling you that the battery is low. You need to charge it up. And the best way to charge it up, of course, is to expose it to just normal everyday light. You don't want to maybe leave this out in the sun where it might overheat. It might be nice if you had bright lights in a certain room that don't get too hot, LED lights, that sort of thing. Some people even go with what they call, I've seen a device, I believe it's called Cool Fire, and it's just a little thing only about the size of your watch face, and it's a bunch of little LEDs shining straight up, and you can kind of put the watch down, face down on this light, and it won't get too hot, but it'll be plenty of bright light. Some people swear by that. For me, I'm kind of like thinking, well, I don't want to pay $40 for a light when I don't really need it. But if you feel like you need it, it might be a good deal. Just have a little light LED again, because you don't want to heat these up, and that'll keep it charged. For me, though, what I've found is that all I have to do is use this watch, wear it. And when I'm not wearing it, leave it on a countertop or dresser somewhere where it will be exposed to everyday normal lighting conditions, and that is enough to keep this and all my other tough solar watches charged up. Just don't store them in the dark. Just put them somewhere where they get some light. Maybe have a case with sort of a clear top, maybe a glass top on your case, and leave your watches in that case. It'll be just fine. All right. I can't think of very much more to say about this watch. I hope you've gotten a good look at it, because really that's the thing you want to know. What does it look like? This is not a watch that's designed to perform like a G-Shock. It's designed to look great, to have that sapphire glass crystal, to have that unique polished finish all over, and just kind of be, when you dress up and want to look nice, get this watch. Again, it's available in some other color combinations. I'm reluctant to talk about the price just because I don't know how prices are going to change by the time you see this video. But what I can tell you is that I got this for just under $400. And you can get some of the other variations for about that price too. Oh, and I should tell you, oh boy, just a few weeks ago, here in the first part of the year 2023, just a few weeks ago, I saw that they have a new version of this. It's all the same stuff except a different color combination, and it looks really nice. I don't know. To me, again, paying somewhere in the neighborhood of between $350 and $400 seems like a lot of money for me to pay on just one watch, but that is an intriguing thing, and I think it might be in my future. I much prefer a watch that I can afford to get when I'm just kind of impulse buying at Walmart. But then we're talking about $30 or so. If I buy the other version of this same watch with a different color, that'd be like the impulse buy of a dozen Walmart watches. So it might not happen immediately, but when it does, I'm sure I'll make a video about it. Oh, now let's be thorough. Just a couple more things I really want to quickly show you. First of all, let's do an official weigh-in. Looks like 129 grams. That's a pretty good heft for some watches, but, whereas the titanium, this other model, only 86 grams. How does that compare to, say, one of these G-Shocks with a bracelet? Okay, 92 grams, somewhere in there. And how about G-Shock, like this analog G-Shock with a regular resin band? So just 53 grams here. So, I still think it's totally comfortable. I have no problem wearing this, even though on the scale it shows it is a heavier watch, but I don't mind it at all. I think it's a great balance, and I really like the way it wears. Even though there's no backlight, there is some glow-in-the-dark material on the hands, and it does have that nice kind of blue-green glow there. You can see a little marker on each of the hour marks there, plus the hour hand and the minute hand each have some really, Really nice glow-in-the-dark material there. I see the second hand doesn't really have it, but anyway, that shows up really well, and it does seem to be a higher quality of glow-in-the-dark material than it is on some of my other Casio watches that don't cost as much. It does seem to glow for an awful long time by comparison, so that's kind of pretty. This is what it looks like on my wrist. I have about a 7.5-inch wrist, and it's a good fit there. You know, compare that to, say, this G-Shock here. It looks a little bit smaller just because it doesn't have that big bulky case there. So yeah, very nice, very classy. I really like it. And that's all for now. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at this watch. And if you're thinking about going with a little bit more of a premium line of watches from Casio, it's going to cost you a little bit more than your average G-Shock, but you know, it's just a nice classy watch, and if you want to just give it a try, this is an entry level. I think you might have some fun with this. Your choice, pick the color you want, and I hope you really enjoy it. And that's all for now, but obviously I've got more ideas for more videos coming soon, so please come back for another episode of the Good Timekeeping Show.